Hello everyone and welcome to another video of Barrel and Glass. I'm Tressa and I'm here to talk about your alcohol. So today we have with us the Jamun Dry Gin. So the brand here aims to celebrate the country's rich botanical heritage and drawing the inspiration from the locally revered jamun fruit, which is also known as the Indian blackberry. This was launched as an alternative to the more conventional gins found in the market, which is usually has a more western approach to the botanicals. Why jamun? Jamun fruit is a very beloved fruit in India, often consumed for its sweet sour taste, and it's in association with the monsoon season. The fruit is known for its rich purple color, which again is what inspired this rich purple bottle color of the Jamun Dry Gin. So the jamun is also very famously known for its medicinal values because of its high content of antioxidants, vitamin C and iron. Incorporating jamun into the gin recipe makes it a uniquely Indian gin that celebrates local flavors with some health benefits as well. So this is part of craft gin movement that has been rapidly growing in India. So because of the growing demand for artisanal and locally inspired spirits, this created like a ground or a place for spirits like the Jamun Dry Gin. So let's talk about the ingredients used in making this. Of course, the star ingredient here is the Indian blackberry or the jamun. And the second ingredient used is, of course, true to every gin, is the juniper berries, which gives it its classic gin taste. The next third ingredient used is the coriander seeds. They contribute to the spicy, citrusy and herbal flavor that goes with gin. Then we have the fourth ingredient, which is the angelica root. We have the orange peel, which is a very common ingredient in many gins, which gives it its bright, zesty, citrusy flavor. Next we have the licorice. So the licorice roots is used in some gins to provide a sweet, slightly earthy flavor. Next we have almonds. Almonds are usually used in craft gin recipes, and this is included to bring in its nutty flavor. Then we have the lemon peel. Like orange, the lemon peel is another citrusy element that is added to bring in that zesty profile. And of course, other Indian botanicals like cinnamon and bay leaves are also added as an ingredient to making this gin. And another key ingredient is water, of course. As with all gins, water is used in the distillation process is crucial to the final product. So the Jamun Dry Gin is produced by Mohan Meakin Limited, one of India's oldest and most iconic distilleries, which has a legacy dating back to the mid-1800s. So the Jamun Dry Gin was launched in 2022 and is produced in the hill town of Kasauli by the Mohan Meakin Distillery. Unlike the majority of the gin, which are made with common junipers, the Jamun Dry Gin is made with Himalayan junipers as well as the Himalayan spring water. Now let's talk about the production process. The very first step is the selection of the botanicals. Like I mentioned earlier, all the ingredients that goes into making the Jamun Dry Gin. So the primary botanical is a Himalayan juniper that is selected, and the second ingredient is the Indian blackberry, the jamun, or also known as the Malabar plum, which is the key ingredient for this dry gin. So then we move on to the second step in the production process, which is the maceration process. So the botanicals are soaked in neutral grain spirit. So the maceration process, where the botanicals are left to steep in the base alcohol, helps in bringing out the flavors of each botanicals. This particular maceration step or this process can take from hours to days to ensure that the spirit absorbs all the oil, flavors and aromas from the botanicals. So let's talk a little more of the the maceration process. So the base alcohol used for this process is a neutral grain spirit, typically with a high ethanol distilled from grains such as barley or corn is used for this maceration process. The spirit that is used for maceration has an alcohol percent of typically 40 to 50% ABV. And the botanical preparations are done in two ways. So during gin making, the distilleries either use dry or fresh botanicals. For the Jamun Dry Gin, the botanicals including the Himalayan juniper, the Jamun, that is the Malabar plum, the coriander and citrus peel are said to be handpicked before being used for the maceration. Some of the ingredients like the citrus peels and herbs are used in the dry botanical form, and other ingredients like the Malabar plum or the jamun and mint are they use the fresh botanicals. And some of the botanicals are grinded and crushed, especially seeds or herbs like the coriander or cubebs to help release their oils. So the typical duration for the Jamun Dry Gin for the maceration is 12 to 48 hours, with shorter times for delicate botanicals and longer for others that needs a deeper extraction. And the maceration is usually carried out in room temperature or slightly cooler around 18 to 22 degrees Celsius, as high temperature can cause the very delicate aromas to break down or evaporate. How does it extract the oil? The neutral spirit acts as a solvent that pulls out the essential oils, flavors and aromas from the botanicals. So you can think of the maceration process as a form of cold extraction, as it does not involve any heat in this process. So usually there are two techniques that distilleries adapt for the maceration process. One is the immersion maceration and the other is maceration process variations, where some botanicals use cold extractions and others are steamed. The Jamun Dry Gin likely uses the immersion maceration. This basically means that all the botanicals are fully submerged in the neutral spirit for the extraction. So these botanicals are placed in large stainless steel containers or large glass containers, and they are sealed very tightly during this process. And then typically once the maceration period is over, the product is filtered or strained to remove any kind of solid botanical matter that is left. Then we come to the third step in the production process, which is distillation. So the macerated botanical mixture is distilled using copper pot stills. This traditional method helps extract the best flavors and essential oils from the botanicals while maintaining the aromatic compounds. So this distillation process takes over in multiple cycles. We talk in more detail about the distillation process. Jamun Dry Gin uses copper pot stills. Now, if you're ever wondering why copper is an excellent conductor of heat and also reacts well with a sulfur component. So this helps in removing any undesirable odor or flavors. This helps to produce like a much smoother, cleaner distillates. So when you talk about the still, it basically has three major parts, which is the pot, the neck and the condenser. So the pot is where the mixture, the macerated botanical mixture is heated, and the neck extends from the pot to the condenser, ensuring that only the desirable components are extracted, and the condenser part of it cools down and turning it back into the liquid form. There are three phases in the distillation process. So we get the head, the heart and the tail. The first portion of the distillation is called as the head. These are the first vapor that come out of the still that are often undesirable, such as methanol and acetone, and this is discarded. And the heart of the distillation is the portion of the distillates that contains the most desirable flavors and aromas from the botanicals. This is the main distillate used for making the gin. So the heart is where the primary flavors from the Himalayan juniper or the Malabar plum, that is the Jamun, and other botanicals are concentration. And then the third stage, which is the taste, is the final portion of the distillation. They contain like heavier compounds such as fuel oils, which can often introduce off flavor, such as like a harshness or a bitterness, which is why this part of it is either discarded or recycled. So the distiller has to therefore carefully monitor temperature and the flavor of the distillation to determine when to separate the heart from the head and the tail. And this process of separating is called as cutting the distillation. This is true in the making of most other alcohol spirits, even if we were talking about vodka or anything else. When the distillation happens, this is a crucial part of distillation. And also this is the part in the process that helps to control the alcohol by volume, or the ABV. So the gin is initially distilled at a high ABV, around 80%, during the final cut, and only during the process of dilution it is brought down to the desired percentage, which is 42.8 in the case of the Jamun Dry Gin. So the Jamun Dry Gin sometimes also goes through a second distillation process to further enhance its flavors, especially to accentuate the Jamun and the Himalayan juniper flavors. And then we come to the fourth step in the production process, which is the infusion of the Himalayan spring water. So after distillation, the gin is diluted with the Himalayan spring water. The water is sourced from high altitudes, around 6,000 feet, and is known for its purity and contributes to the smoothness of the final product. And then we have the fifth step, which is the marrying process. So after the distillation and dilution, the gin undergoes a marrying period of, this is approximately, takes around 1 month. So during this period, the gin is left to rest and mature to its final strength. The reason why this is done is it will help the botanical flavors and oils to harmonize and refine. And then we come to the sixth step, which is the bottling. Gin is bottled at its final strength after the flavor harmonization during the marrying period, and thus giving us the Jamun Dry Gin. So let's talk about the bottle itself. As you can see, it is made of a deep purple colored glass. This is to emphasize its trademark use of the Jamun or the Malabar plums or the Indian blackberry, whatever you want to call it, because that also gives its deep purple color, as you can see over here. And you can also see the Himalayan juniper is mentioned here, and there is also like an illustration of the Himalayan juniper on the bottle itself. If you go further down, it also mentions that this is made in small batches, and it also shows that it uses the Himalayan spring water. And the alcohol percentage is mentioned on the bottom here, which is 42.8% ABV, and this is a 750 ml bottle. Now when you turn this around, you have a beautiful inscription of what this dry gin stands for, and in the very bottom, of course, the company that produced the gin, the name of the company that produced the gin. So the Jamun Dry Gin is priced between 130 to 140 dirhams in the UAE and 35 to 40 US dollars. So let's get started to the most exciting part, that is the smell test and the taste test. So you have the indication on where to open the seal. I'm going to go ahead and break the seal. Which reveals a beautiful wooden cork. And the plastic, there is also another seal over here that we need to break. So I'm going to go ahead and twist that to break the seal. over here. And this seal is also illustrated beautifully in a purple tape and gold accent, which I find very cute. And here they have illustrated the botanicals that are used for making this gin. It's in the little details that you can find so much. And it has a wooden cork, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this a smell. So first, when I take a whiff of this gin, it's the berries that stand out. The juniper comes in first, and right behind it is the smell of the jamun. It has like an almost exotic smell to it. I really like the aroma smell that's coming when you take it on your nose. Now I'm going to give this a pour. As you can see, the liquid pours out clear, and I can't wait to give this a taste. Cheers. That is very, very nice. Actually, enjoy that a lot. I personally felt like the citrus is what hit my tongue first, and we have the immediate punch of the juniper and the jamun that follows right after it. It goes down pretty smooth, but it has a bit of an afterburn that I feel, and once it goes in, I can actually taste a bit of the spices of the cardamom and other botanicals that were in this. It has a soft mouth feel to it, a little creamy, sort of velvety. It's not too thick, but it has a slight velvety but mostly dry feeling to it. It leaves a dry feel on the neck as well. Let's talk about the food pairings that goes well with the Jamun Dry Gin. So first, of course, like most alcohols, cheese is the first option that you can have with this. If you're looking for what cheese exactly, you can specifically go goat cheese or mature cheese like a brie. And seafood is also a great combination with this gin, like crab cakes or grilled shrimp. Even oysters is a great combination. And you can also go with meats like grilled meat or like spiced lamb, and Asian cuisine goes really well with this, complements this gin really well, like sushis, dim sums, and even like a Thai curry. Fruits and salads, definite big yes on this. You can go have, like, if you want to go on a lighter note, you can like have some pair it with some berries, citrus fruit, and if you're looking to have something sweet, desserts is a great option. Desserts like lemon tart, dark chocolate, almond based desserts as well. You can also, if you're somebody who likes spicy and savory, you can pair it with spiced nut or grilled veggies. All of these food pairing goes really well with this. Now coming to the cocktails that you can make. So some of the cocktails that you can have with the Jamun Dry Gin is a classic gin and tonic. You can also make a mojito, a martini, a Negroni, and so many other cocktails out there that you can give it a try. You can also put in your own little twist by adding some kind of jamun garnish to it as well. So that's it for today's video. If you like superb today, so if you like the kind of content that I take, don't forget to click on the like, share and subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Cheers.